Greetings, my name is Slight, and this is a solo Reincarnation 8 OverExplain on the bird Qing. We're going to be breaking down the armor break build, why it's good, why it might be misunderstood, and why, if you haven't played it, you should. You're going to be given opportunities in this video to pause and try to predict what I am going to do. I suggest in these instances that you do pause and take the opportunity, instead of passively absorbing information, to engage with it a little better, as it will be more instructive. Keep in mind that these opportunities are not a test, not at all. These are simply opportunities for us to challenge our assumptions, which is always a good thing. So let's get started. Why do we play the armor break build? Why would that be something good to play on the bird? A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that this is all about doing large amounts of leap damage. While this build can do a significant amount of leap damage, realistically, especially in the higher reincarnation runs, a lot of your damage is going to have to come from weapons. That doesn't make the armor break build bad, and it doesn't mean that it's not going to do no damage. The fact that it has a massive AoE means that the damage it does is still very strong, even if it's just moderate to mediocre damage. So why would we do it? The main reason that we do this build is this particular talent right here called Emergency Defense. The idea is that we can set ourselves up to have a very high uptime on Emergency Defense, and we are going to be able to use this particular talent to stay immune to normal damage for a significant portion of the time in the late game. Understand that when you're immune to normal damage, you're not immune to elemental damage. So Jade Gunners in the stage 4 can still be a big problem, but a lot of damage gets mitigated with its Emergency Defense, and it's one of the tools, along with being invulnerable while leaping all the time, that is very, very powerful. So the way we do this, just to make that clear, is in my tier list for the bird, if you're playing this particular build, the first 3 ascensions are Regen Hit 1, then All or Nothing, then Regen Hit 2. All right, and the reason is Regen Hit 2, when you hit something, heals you back to full shield. Notice that this effect can activate again once your armor has reached its current maximum. Okay? All right, I think you're starting to put it together. The idea is once you have Regen Hit 2 and you have All or Nothing, every time you leap, you will re-trigger Emergency Defense. And not only that, you'll have it up again. So say you're in a dire situation, you leap, you hit someone, you trigger All or Nothing, you get 2 seconds of Emergency Defense, then you take damage enough to break your armor again. Well, you've got another Emergency Defense ready to go right there. And for that reason, this is a very powerful defensive build. So the first thing you're going to want to do is just kind of keep re-rolling until you get Unstoppable Momentum. Unstoppable Momentum was changed recently, and it is much more powerful than it used to be. It does come with some interesting playstyle as well, which I really like. The 90 cost is relatively cheap, and it is a very, very fun spiritual blessing to be using. So that's the one we're going to grab. And you've seen me talk about this quite a bit recently, and granted the other options aren't good, but every time I see a double caliber early in the game, I am very excited. Double caliber is still by far one of the best early game picks that you can get in the game. So our first pick comes up, and what is it going to be? Now, oh yes, so pause if you want to make this decision. So I'm gonna start. We technically do have 2 options here, but Last Stand tends to be the best way to go. All right, Last Stand is going to trigger with armor break. It's going to reduce damage we take and significantly increase our damage output from our weapon, because it does weapon damage and rate of fire at the same time, and that combines to an extremely high weapon damage increase. That being said, Iron Scud does have a place in this build, as the 30 max armor does happen before you hit. So all or Nothing gives you a multiplicative damage boost for each single point of armor consumed. So the more armor you have, the bigger that multiplicative damage boost is, and Iron Scud gives you armor before you land on the leap. So it does combine quite well. The only downside to Iron Scud is it doesn't actually really impact us now, and I would say it's probably not quite as strong as Last Stand. Last Stand is is definitely the pick here, although there is a case for Iron Scud. Nice. All right. Next up, easy pick. Easy pick. Last Stand 2. Let's go. We don't need it. We don't need to talk about that. Come on. Come on. Ooh, and it looks I've included this parkour in the run here. So something to keep in mind. So notice here that I have 8 stacks of unstoppable momentum. Okay. One thing that is tough about this build, as you see me sort of freak out, is that now, in the position that I'm at, I have 8 stacks, right? If I kick a pot, I lose all my stacks, right? So I actually, normally what you would do when you play the bird in this case is you go find some pots or some other thing that you can get armor off of and you go kick it. Well, you cannot do that. So you have to sort of balance, especially in the early game, whether or not you're going to be like trying to go for this type of play where I am kind of playing a little greedy. I want to keep my leap stacks up as high as I can because I think that I'm going to need them. And yeah, I am very close to dying here, but I end up not dying and I get to keep all 10 of my stacks. And so it pans out for me, but this is not always the best decision. You know, I was feeling confident with what I was doing, but it doesn't necessitate that that is what you should be doing. Here we're happy to see Enhance Against the Flow and Elemental Pupil with an increased elemental effect chance and a base damage increase upon elemental trigger effect is a very, very strong, easy, and accessible early game damage tool. So something like this, seeing this early game, means that we should definitely be picking this up. We're looking for some significant increase in power, and often these OP weapons like Pupil and Fire Tower and Illusion are some of the first weapons that we see in the game that are going to meaningfully increase our damage. And I think I'd also say here, let me see if I can go back correctly. I'm using a new media player. Yeah, so I'd also say that these inscriptions are not very strong. It's just the fact that we have a pupil. You know, really that's what this is all about. So I don't want to give you the wrong impression here. We're just looking for a really powerful weapon, and when we see those, we take them. And it seems like I had some deliberation here before doing this. Now, in this particular room, I want you to notice that I have 10 stacks of unstoppable momentum ready to go. And I want you to see how patient I am with using this. This is not something that I just want to always be leaping to just jump in. Leap is a defensive tool, almost more so than it's a damage tool. And so I'm trying to wait until I can actually get pretty good value. And that was the 4th wave, and they were easy. They were nice and spread out. I knew that I was not under any threat, but the last wave of monsters tends to be a little tougher, and so I might be looking to try to get a bit more value out of my leap now and having it up right when this wave spawns. And so I'm looking to hit 2 to 3 backline enemies much more than I am looking for anything else. And we can also take a little stock that just with unstoppable momentum, we're doing 13 to 14,000 damage on a leap, which is good. That's definitely a fine place to be. You know, it's nothing absolutely insane, but it's definitely not bad. So here we are. This is a bit more of a tough pick. What's your pick? So normally I think that I would be picking Gigantic Explosion here, but being offered Last Stand level 3 is very odd early game, but this Ascension is very powerful. The level 3 takes the duration up to 10 seconds. All during those 10 seconds, you're taking 40% reduced speed, and you've got 100% weapon and 50% rate of fire increase, which is a massive weapon increase. And it significantly improves your survivability for a very long time after breaking the armor. So 9 times out, against just about anything like any other mediocre pick, like if it was Last Stand 2, I would definitely pick Gigantic Explosion here because this minus 20% cooldown on leap is so integral to your survivability with these leap builds. But Last Stand 2 is a little bit too juicy to pass up. Another thing to consider, which is just a very small thing, is that if we take Last Stand 3, it actually reduces the pool, which I'm just going to throw that out there. Not exactly sure what that means for this case, but Last Stand 3 is my pick. If you pick Gigantic Explosion here, I wouldn't yell at you. Obviously, Slight is moving quick here. So obviously, anything that's doing skill damage, like Brutal Gloves, is exactly what we want to see. We will take that every time. And I do recommend that you trade life for money early game, especially because you have a 25% chance to double that. Money early is very, very useful, and getting a couple early weapon upgrades on a powerful weapon is going to help you get out of the tombs and out of the desert more easily. I see a lot of people who suggest that you don't level up weapons early, and I do not think that's the best way to play. If you're dying the most in the early game, that means you need to be putting more of your resources into the early game. Whether that's attention and time, sure, that means you need to be better at them, but it also means your actual money, your actual essence. I would try to get out of this mindset that, oh, well, I'm dumb if I can't get out of tombs, or if I can't get out of tombs without, saving up 4,000 gold and using a +2 weapon, a +2 scalpel with bad inscriptions, then it's not even worth getting into the late game. But I would really strongly suggest that you try to take a step back from that mentality, put the resources in early, and then more often you're going to be getting to the mid game with slightly less resources, but you're going to be getting there more consistently. And by getting there more consistently means you get to play more and more interesting positions in the game. Often, not to go too far down this tangent, but often the other play style, which says, save everything up, don't spend anything early, means that you die early, and you never get to that mid game. But when you do, you found something that got you through the early game, or you're playing like Battle Scarred Dog, or Lightning Messenger, Lay Low, something like that. That's like kind of carrying you through the early game. So I would highly recommend you take this type of stuff early. Take the hit. It is cheaper to buy a bun than the money you get here. So if you have a peddler in the room, you just make money by taking this trade and then buying a bun. But then you can use this type of money to spend on those early upgrades when they're cheap and get a significant increase. The last thing I'll say on this point is that your weapon upgrades early on in the game are more impactful than they are later. And if you've seen or played with my Gunfire Reborn damage calculator, you'll know that this is the case. And that's because weapon upgrades are additive with each other. So by the time you have a level 20 weapon, one upgrade constitutes like a less than 5% actual damage increase. Then these early ones, which are like 15, 13, 11 type stuff, where you're getting this significant increase in damage. So kind of a small thing, but I'd say important as far as trying to get out of the early game more consistently. And so this is just kind of an indication of one of the unique things about the bird is his recharge shot talent, which means that each projectile you hit heals you in armor up to 6 a second. So when you're under duress and you're on fire like this, it's very important to try to hit enemies as much as possible. And you see me turning to these guys and shooting them. Now, granted, the burning did fall off of me and I was no longer taking burning damage, but had I still been under the burning effect there, this would have been very important and might have saved me. And I have been saved by that in the past. So next up, we have an easy pick. Very easy pick here. This is Gigantic Explosion all the way. These other two don't fit with our build at all. Defensive Cleave is definitely if this was easy kill or something, I would pick Defensive Cleave because at least it has some impact on our build. But Gigantic Explosion is definitely the way to go. The cooldown reduction and the AoE are incredibly important. The AoE is going to increase our ability to do damage to more people, and the cooldown means we're going to be able to leap more. Gigantic Explosion, probably one of the best ascensions in the game. Here we've got a pretty easy pick. That's Enduring Caster, which is just skill damage. And I guess I'll say this about Enduring Caster. See if I can get back to it real quick. Sorry, new media player here. Okay, so we can see it here. So the cool thing about Enduring Caster is it's more skill damage for each shield / armor we have. So it actually combines exceptionally well with us, because the whole idea with the armor break build is you want to build up a large amount of armor and then trigger all or nothing. So this kind of synergizes in the same way. And so that overlap feels good, Nothing spectacular, but also nothing to scoff at. When you're fighting against longbowmen, as the bird and the dog, you have kind of a secret power. What you want to do when you're fighting these guys is you want to wait until they start their firing animation, just like this, okay? Then you want to kick them. And what this does is it staggers them, and now they've stopped doing their OP long-range attack, so that's great. But it also puts their attack on cooldown, so they're not going to do it again immediately. And so they'll do something else that's not nearly as powerful, like walk around or try to whack you. So that is one of the best things that you can do against longbowmen early, and will significantly improve your ability to fight against him. So this Lightning Blast is super, super strong. Why? It's a solid lightning. I'm not saying it's good on the bird necessarily, but I'm saying it's a good Lightning Blast. And this is one of the better weapons in the game. The reason Lightning Blast is exceptionally good with this is it has its best inscription on it, or at least, probably top 3. Piercing +1 projectile speed solves a huge amount of problems that the Lightning Blast has, but the Lightning Blast is a shock applicator like none other, has a fair bit of damage, is good with crit Geminis and miasma Geminis, has an interesting secondary fire, and when it has this projectile speed, it's a lot easier to hit. The biggest problem with it sometimes is just that its projectile is so low, even though the projectile is quite big. The piercing is also very, very good, because it means you don't have to carry a secondary weapon that actually pierces enemies. So I do pick this up. I don't really use it, but if you're looking to try Lightning Blast, and you want something that's like more accessible, this inscription, piercing +1, projectile speed plus 100%, is almost all you need, along with a miasma elemental share Gemini, to absolutely wreck Reincarnation 8. And so we see bye double caliber. It was nice knowing you. What am I supposed to be talking about here? I need to pause. Yes. Okay, hold on. All right. Super important. This is the good stuff, right? I'm going to talk about this in an upcoming video, but I want you to just watch this and just recognize the extra second that I take on both of those 2 shots. Okay? All right, watch this. Do you feel that? That little bit of time? So, right here, that's just that 1/10 of a second. And here, again, 1/10 of a second. What I'd like you to just recognize in these moments is that you're going to be playing the game, and you're going to feel off sometimes. You're going to feel like you're not hitting your shots, and things aren't working out for you. And a lot of that comes down to being intentional with your decisions. And I'm going to make the case that that extra 1/10 of a second is me being intentional with my shot, and me knowing it's going to hit when I release the fire button, instead of sort of like trying to trust my reactions. I'm trying to get a confluence of my reactions and my prefrontal cortex calculation all at the same time. And so to get that merge takes a little bit of practice, but the key to merging those 2 things is an intention of building upon your sort of natural reflex and natural hand-eye coordination, something that's sort of automated for you, and practicing an intention so that becomes more consistent. I'm going to be releasing a video about things that you can do to make yourself better at games in general, but specifically Gunfire Reborn, and shooting with intention is one of those things. So I just wanted to touch on that. Yeah, I murdered him. He's done. What's the pick? So this one is much more interesting than it may seem. So I talked a little bit about Iron Scud. Iron Scud, if you have All or Nothing, is actually a 24% multiplicative damage boost, assuming you're at max shield when you do your all or nothing kick. Last Breath here is a 200% leap base damage increase with cooldown reduction when you defeat an enemy with the leap, not like with armor break or anything else. It has to be the leap damage. Okay, so and Unstoppable Momentum is also base damage, so these are additive together. So that makes Last Breath not as good as it normally is, right? So Last Breath constitutes a 20% leap damage increase. Okay, so Iron Scud's a little bit better. I would make the case that if I had all or nothing at this point, I should pick Iron Scud. And because I don't, I'm going to pick Last Breath. And basically, the only thought there is that I want, both of these are about the same, and I want the one that's going to be paying off now. I'd say that this 10% armor, 10% move speed is actually better on average than the Last Breath's cooldown reduction, because it's hard to get kills with Last Breath in high reincarnation, at least consistently, to be able to use that. So it's a toss-up. I think Last Breath is better because I can use it now. Thank you, Slight. All right, this is just an indication of why we pick OP weapons early. I am doing damage that is the wrong damage type. I'm doing lightning damage to armor, and then I'm doing lightning damage to red HP, and I just absolutely murder this Elite Spearman. And this is why we need to be on the lookout and get comfortable with using very powerful weapons early. And then as we get later into the run, we can find something that's spicy and really take a big puff of that and use that the rest of the run. All right. Ooh. Very, very good. So this is an exceptionally good scroll. I think I missed this when I'm very fortunate that I left this in the editing. But this deals lightning damage when the shield armor is broken. The damage is affected by the max shield and armor. So this obviously just really combines with everything we're doing. It's not a huge amount of damage. I think at the end of this game, this is doing around 5,000 damage. So nothing crazy, right? But it all sort of adds together. And you're going to see that we're going to be doing good damage with our leaps once we get into the late game. But there's a long time here before that happens. So Thunder Screen is one of those little things that's sort of adding up to that big damage. So let's pop back here. We get Thunder Screen. That's great. We've got Fight for Immortality, Persistent, and Final Judgment. Which is the pick? And I will say there is a clear winner. Very clear. Okay, it is Fight for Immortality, and maybe for a reason that you're not aware of. Obviously, this is really strong. Upon taking damage, gain max shield and armor for 12 seconds, equivalent to the damage received. Well, that seems like, it kind of fits with what we're doing. We want to get more armor. We want to get more shield. It's survivability. So, that seems good, but I'm going to point out something you may not know, that it is amazing in this build. Amazing. And the reason is because once you get all or nothing, the all or nothing damage that it does to itself triggers Fight for Immortality and gives you the bonus damage on that leap. So if I had all or nothing right now and I leapt at an enemy, I would gain 115 extra armor from Fight for Immortality, and then I would spend all of it as extra multiplicative damage boost from all or nothing. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. This may need to be tested. Either way, okay? It is either going to increase our next hit or the current hit. I think that it increases the current hit. I feel like I was so sure up until I started listening to myself talk. Either way, very, very strong. What I do know is that the all or nothing damage that you do to yourself does trigger this and increases your max shield, max armor, and I think that actually adds to the damage of that first hit. The fact that it lasts 12 seconds means that you can recoup the bonuses on 2 to even 3 more leaps in that duration, which significantly increases the damage. So even if it doesn't apply to the first one, it's still extremely powerful. So, Fight for Immortality, great. I just saw that I'm fighting the golem, which I didn't show to you. So seeing Brief Respite here is amazing because that is a very powerful ascension against this boss. Here, because I've already refreshed the shop once, I'm going to take Perfect Sixth because I have plenty of gold and I just want it out of the pool. Sometimes if I saw Perfect Sixth down here in the first round of items, I would refresh it for another shot. But since it's the second, I just want to pull it out of the pool, and I can pull it out of the pool, and I can do that. So you can see here that I just very easily am going to switch weapons just like that and take no damage from most of the telegraphed hits. Swap weapons, no damage. And the weapon I have is doing just very fine damage, nothing special. And here we can just switch to our secondary fire, or we can always kick. There's a way that you can kick these pretty consistently. I wasn't feeling like I needed to do that, so just abused Brief Respite, used the secondary skill on Lightning Blast, which is a 50% multiplicative damage boost for any projectile shot through it, so that's very good. All right. What's the pick? Easy pick, Nova Shockwave. It's exactly what we want in the armor break build. Something to keep in mind is that Nova Shockwave doesn't trigger unless you have one stack of it. So in the armor break build, we need to kill something before we start getting these Nova Shockwaves off. It's just something to keep in mind. Again, Iron Scud's not terrible, and I'd like your opinion on how good you feel like flowing time is going to be in this build. At this point, how good is it going to be? Just assess. The truth is that it's extremely powerful, okay? This is a very, very powerful ascension to be getting right now. And the reason is it's because we have a lot of ways that the cooldown of leap is being reduced as a percentage. And once we've got that, lowered, these hard number cooldown reductions start to be massively effective. So we're going to see here pretty soon that I am able to use a lot of leaps really quickly in quick succession. Aha, so we got to talk about this. Let me scoot back. Okay, so I talked about this on the Longbowmen, and it works here as well. Okay, one thing to keep in mind is that we need to be careful, and you need to check to see if they're resistive. If they're resistive, your stagger will not work necessarily. I think it might have a chance to work. I'm not exactly sure. But I have got this timing perfect. I know exactly when he's going to try to flamethrow me, and so, check this out. I can play it slow. Boom. See how that? And that's just great timing. But right when he pulls out the flamethrower is the second before my leap hits him, instantly staggers him, stops the flamethrower, and puts it on cooldown. That's exactly what we want to be doing against these types of enemies. And so I included that in there. So next up, assess these 3 scrolls and tell me what the pick is. All right, did you get that? You can rewind. All right, so we've got terrific. What is this one? Terrific Crossfire, Hidden Transaction, and then Lightning Shard. So Lightning Shard would boost our Thunder Screen because that's lightning damage, which would be good. Hidden Transaction is extremely powerful. Very, very, very good scroll. And if you pick a weapon early in the game, this can easily increase the levels by, like 10 extra levels by the end of the game, which is awesome. That's a lot of damage. And then we've got Terrific Crossfire. So what is the pick? I would say this is very hard. You'll see me looking around for quite a while before I finally make my decision here. So we're just watching in real time while you make your decision. But as it turns out, there is a clear winner that I wasn't quite aware of until I took a chance on Terrific Crossfire. This may have been clear to some of you, but along with Flowing Light, Terrific Crossfire doesn't seem at first like it would be good for this build because we're not casting cleave at all. But the fact is that if we can significantly reduce our leap cooldown to almost nothing, even if it costs us a few cleaves, we can pretty much be invulnerable and be doing huge amounts of AoE damage. So, oh, here. I'll show you that in just a sec. But first, you need to look at this. Okay, yeah. All right, this weapon. If I told you this is the weapon I use for the rest of the game, would you believe me? The second I saw this, I knew I was going to be playing it the rest of the game. How did I know that? The reason is because of a couple things. So this is why figuring out whether a weapon is good is like hard to do a video on, right? Because there's so many things that can come in. So first off, the bird gets a lot of benefits from having lots of projectiles, okay? So when I see projectiles +2, projectiles +1, and projectiles 20%, that gets me excited, okay? That means that I'm going to be shooting a lot of bullets. I'm going to be getting the maximum effect from my recharge shot, which is 6 per second. And each of those is essentially a multiplicative damage boost. So that's like 142% damage boost just right out the gate. I have against the flow, enhanced against the flow, so the consumption's not really a big problem for me. The main thing though that really tips me off and really made me pick this is the accuracy and stability modifier, which is one of the best green inscriptions you can get and better than many rare inscriptions, in fact. And the reason is because the cavalry always triggers a crit on the third shot. It's a very unique part of the weapon, but it has a very low crit X. So the thing that you always want to do with it is put it with like a sniper and give it a crit X Gemini, and then its damage goes really, really high because it's built around this low crit modifier. And so when you really pump that up, the damage just skyrockets. So that gives you minus 50% stability, and the stability on the weapon's already not great. The accuracy is already not like great. So seeing the stability already being solved when I put that crit X Gemini on it and the accuracy increased to plus 80% really keys me off that this is going to be an ideal weapon even in the late game as long as I start pumping it up right now. And I have opportunities to upgrade these inscriptions because I've got it so early. I could get an exclusive or rare inscriptions later in the run, and I wouldn't be too upset replacing most of these green ones, although the worst one to replace would be the accuracy stability. So this turns out to be the weapon for the rest of the game. It's tough to see that. It's tough to know, and it really pays off. The damage gets absolutely bonkers. So what I want you to do for this particular room is just sort of watch the cooldown of leap and watch how I'm managing that, using cleave and hitting with flowing time to try to keep that up as quickly as I can. My damage is not very high right now, and so realistically, even with leaps, so my goal right now is just to sort of keep cycling through leap after leap and use that as area damage. I'm out of cleaves right now, which is why you're not seeing me cleave. Look at that timing. Look at that timing. It's like I've done this 1,000 times. Right when they start shooting their little flamethrowers at me, I stun them. Look at them. What are they doing? Nothing. Yeah. Now, they do have a 5-second or so, I think, stagger cooldown. So the second time, if you're afraid you're going to die to them, be careful, and you can back away and wait for that stagger cooldown to come off before you do this again. But notice that they broke my shield. My shield is already back up, and now I've got 10 seconds of plus 50% rate of fire, plus 100% skill and weapon damage, and I'm taking minus 40% damage all during this time. And that's why this Last Stand 3 was such a powerful pick, because my damage just skyrockets anytime they get me close to death. And I have that emergency defense already built into the package of Bird, so getting this Last Stand is already very, very strong. One thing to keep in mind while I'm playing against this guy right here, I've already read, and he doesn't have resistive, okay? Because resistive gets getting me killed lately. So I've already looked at that. But I'm looking down this path here so that I can see the bandit retainers shooting at me, and I can actually play against them correctly. I know the bandit retainers are back there, so I'm intentionally trying to position myself so that I can see them. And see, I just cancel his flamethrower. if you die to this guy, it's because you don't know about that type of stuff. You know, there are certain, you know, the cat can slow him before he gets close. Lay low can run away with fatal current, and Tau can die. Tau can die to the arsonist. But if you're the dog, if you are the bird, you have a counter to these particular enemies that is very powerful, and that is the stagger mechanic. And so here, it is very intentional how I'm sort of positioning myself, and I heard the retainers fire. So you'll see them, I'm actually intentionally moving backwards so that those retainers are hitting this cube to my right here. That was weird. Okay, so next pick. All these work. What's the pick? Easy pick. Region hit. We have to get region hit, because the second we get all or nothing, we are going to start having a huge problem if we don't have any points in region hit. There is no other choice here. It is always region hit every single time. We have to make sure we're recovering our armor after all or nothing gets rid of our armor. Otherwise, this build is never going to work for us. So here, I've got a lot of gold because I've some scrolls I have, which is whatever. But it allows me to be a little bit more, I don't know, freeform, less suboptimal would be a good way to say it. And I go ahead and I think pump up the cavalry, which is good, but I think I am a little bit wasteful with my etching here. I don't know why I upgraded it twice and then etched it, but I did do that. So I just wasted 400 gold, but you know what? Who needs it? Who needs it? What's the pick? Easy pick, right? Nova Shockwave. I will make the case that steel armor is okay, not bad, but we already have emergency defense, so we don't really need steel armor. Steel armor is better in the unkillable leap build, which is all about kind of a slightly different way to play, but it is good in that build. But Nova Shockwave is the way we want to go here. We want to actually do damage when we leap. Here I get to replace a normal inscription with a rare inscription. These are some of the best things that you can get in the game. If you're sleeping on these things, they are so powerful sometimes. And you're going to see here that I get plus 10% lucky shot chance for every 10% ammo consumed. And you might think, Slight, that's pretty good. I'm like, dude, that is amazing. This inscription says ammo consumed, not ammo in the magazine. So with my enhanced against the flow, that's just constantly regenerating ammo. After I shoot 42 ammo out of this cavalry, I have 100% bonus lucky shot on every shot, even if I have full magazine. Remember, this is 10% ammo consumed of the magazine, not current magazine, capacity, not capacity, current magazine amount. You know, you get it. It's very good. And I kept my accuracy stability. So here you can kind of see that happening. I'm getting like a permanent purple orange effect going on here. And that is because, ooh, spicy. This is my last, no, it's not. It's not my last life. But the damage is very high. Here I reload, and now all of that's gone. All right. And it's because I had to reload. Obviously, that makes sense. But yeah. Yeah, pump this. Oh, I paused. Oh, that's what I'm showing you. You know, I forget. I got the crit Gemini. So now on crits, we just what was it? It was 2. So we went up 3.2 crit X, right? So that's like 160% multiplicative damage increase on crits with this crit Gemini now. And we've got the stability to handle it. So our damage is still not amazing with this weapon, but it's getting better and better. And just kind of keep in mind that, like, the build is not doing a lot of damage in general right now. We're missing combo pieces. But what's so important about this build is that people mistake the fact that they're not doing damage as like a problem. Because the whole point of this build is not about doing damage. It's about being extremely tanky. And the all or nothing plus regen hits kind of stuff and keeping our leap cooldown super low is what's making us be able to survive into the late game and do enough damage. Now, It's important that we do have a weapon that is doing some damage, because this monsters will cure other monsters around based on lost HP can be a really tough challenge for the bird if you don't have enough damage. As you can see, this guy is incredibly tough to kill, and this was with my 160% multiplicative damage increase, right? So just something to keep in mind. If you go too tanky, those rooms can be real brutal. Here we've got a very easy pick. That's Gigantic Explosion 2. I will not insult your intelligence to think that you would pick anything otherwise. And now we are fighting the Wind God. The Wind God tends to get this decreased movement speed whenever your shield armor breaks challenge. Maybe it's just me that's got them. Maybe they are random, or maybe this one happens more often. But it is very frustrating on the bird because really what it says is like stop your movement. Like when your shield breaks, it just stops you. It doesn't like decrease your movement. You have no movement speed, which can be very frustrating. We're doing pretty good damage against him. Here, a little trick you're going to see me do is if he hits you with this first wave back, just immediately leap, and you'll be able to sort of dodge the other two. And that way you'll stay in the mid-range, which is kind of where you want to be. And so look at this. You can't see it right there. I've got the negative buff on me. I can't move. Like I'm pressing move right now. And all I can do is dash. All right, and now I'm back, and he kills me. Ugh. Now, it's even worse if you're actually playing the armor break, if you've got all or nothing at this point, because basically every time you leap, you literally get rooted to the ground. So if you're playing this build, keep that in mind and really check for this challenge. Otherwise, you're in for a rude awakening when you get rooted and die to this boss. All right, easy pick. Nova Shockwave 3, love to see it. This is plus 15 max armor for 10 seconds for each enemy killed. And then it does a Nova Shockwave that deals max armor times 50 damage to surrounding enemies. And so if we've got 100 shield, that's 5,000 base damage before we get skill increase or anything like that. And we're going to be getting that skill increase from stuff like Fully Equipped, from Last Stand, that kind of stuff. So this Nova Shockwave is going to be popping. And it's a massive AoE. And now this is interesting. So as it turns out, I actually picked this up. This is extremely good. Nah, I'm just kidding. Nah, fuck, dude. No, recycle that. Just kidding. Did I get you? I hope I did. All right, here we've got a tough pick. Really tough pick. What's your pick? All these are good. I'm going to get some water. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. Got a grapefruit LaCroix. Pamplemousse. What did you pick? All three of these are exceptionally good. I would say Jackpot, while I think this is much better than its 30 essence would indicate, we already have plenty of gold. We really don't need Jackpot at this point. Oppressor is very, very strong and probably the second best one. The main issue, with picking Oppressor is that it's not Ultimate Gambler. And the reason we want Ultimate Gambler is because we still don't have All or Nothing, and we're playing the All or Nothing build. That is a testament to how powerful the base mechanic of this is, but right now we're not getting a lot of value out of our leaps besides survivability, and once we have All or Nothing going, that changes a lot, and it starts to do some actually legitimate AoE damage. So the sooner we can get that All or Nothing going, the better we are at. So the pick here, I think, has to be Ultimate Gambler, because 150% additive damage increase is just not going to be nearly the same as a massive multiplicative damage boost from All or Nothing. Ultimate Gambler is the pick. And so we move through, one thing I'll say about this point in the run is that I'm cutting out a lot of the fighting, and it is a bit slow. It's not too slow, it's not like a real slog, but the fights are not quick. And there's a lot of me sort of cycling through the damage that my leap is doing and constantly being on the move. My cavalry is doing pretty good damage at this point, but I would say that overall my damage is okay and my survivability is very high. So we get through this room and boom, yes, It's so nice when it pays off. It's so nice when you make a decision and then it comes to life. All or nothing, boom, right there. That's what we want to see. Increase leap damage by 0.8% per consumed armor point, and that is a multiplicative damage boost on our leap. So I think I've got it set up so we can compare damage before and after. Yeah, so I just did around 19,000 damage here. And yeah, so 19,000 to these guys. I think I saw 20,000 there. All right. And now, oh, let's do this one. So now this is with all or nothing. I played a prank on you. I reset all my stacks. You know what? You know what's frustrating about playing Unstoppable Momentum? That your damage falls off a lot. Oh, give me one sec. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, I pranked you guys. Okay, yes. So we lost all of our stacks. It is tough to break the habit of using leap as a movement tool to get around places faster as well, because it's a huge damage loss. So we're gonna watch ourselves kind of go through gaining up our points here. Another thing here, let's pop back to this, is that notice that we are not getting that Nova release. You know. And so, and it does look like this is triggered, but I can't imagine that if we're getting that extra all or nothing damage, that we're doing 17,000. So I think that while this works here, I think we do have to leap again for us to actually capture the damage increase from all or nothing. So let's keep moving forward. But Nova Shockwave is not triggering until now. Now we have that Nova Shockwave actual damage here. So now when we hit, we're going to do our damage and we're going to get that huge shockwave from Thunder Screen and from Nova Shockwave. And so now with just one more hit here, we're at 51,000 damage on our leap, 14,000 damage on our I think this is the Nova Shockwave, and then the 11,000 is the Thunder Screen. I think that's what we're looking at there. But the damage is getting quite a bit higher. So now we're doing around 60,000 damage in total on each leap, which is much better than 17,000. And we only have 4 stacks of leap. So these are going to keep getting higher and higher. And as you can see, our cooldown is extremely low on this. All right, 85,000. Pretty sick. It's getting there. Keep pumping this cavalry up. You know, we want to do lots of damage. And now we're at 7 stacks. 41,000. He must have been a soldier or something. And now we're looking at defensive. So this is all reduced damage. But actually, the Thunder Screen is doing very good damage because of all these shielded enemies. So this is doing double damage, or 50% increased damage. And so now we should do some sick damage, and that's because we have the 241 stacks here. We're almost at max stacks, and so yeah, 144,000 leap damage. That is pretty good. So all or nothing, getting our leaps back up to 10. We're starting to do significant damage, and now the build is sort of online for the most part. And so I think we're going to see that the damage I'm doing here is very high. My weapon damage is still very good though, and it is useful to have good weapon damage when you're doing this type of stuff. It is a mistake to go all in on the leap damage and not have sort of a backup here. And obviously this Crit Gemini Cavalry is cranking out the damage. I mean, as you can see. Here, I think there are a couple options. We could potentially pick Victory Rush because of how many projectiles we're shooting. If we get a couple levels of this or a lucky projectile trigger, we could trigger Victory Rush with our cavalry. Steel Armor is okay, but I actually picked Death Mark here. I think it's the best pick because we're naturally inclined to cast and cleave because of Terrific Crosshair, I think is the name of that scroll that we got earlier. This applies a 20% multiplicative damage boost and is going to help increase our speed. So against tanky enemies, this is only going to help. And looks like I tried to refresh away from it, but the death mark stuck to me. And here we have a 50% cooldown reduction on our leap from the previous room. And I just wanted to give you an indication at how sort of crazy our damage is at this point. So we took a little hit there and got 132 bonus armor. And so now we're leaping, we're doing 100,000 damage plus 60,000. And our cooldown is extremely 200,000, 300,000 damage. And we can just keep this going. Now obviously we can't get 50% cooldown reduction all the time, but that is basically double our damage output from leap. Here we get dual edge, which is extremely good at this point in the run. Because we're leaping so much, it's very unlikely we're going to take a lot of damage. And we get very lucky with Regen Hit 2. This really enables the combo to really kind of go off the rails. And at this point in the game, I think that it would be very, very difficult to lose. I think that Regen Hit 3 is not useful, though. We really don't want this because we're always going to be hitting something with our leap. It's pretty hard not to hit anything, so it's kind of a waste of a ascension. But fully equipped is very good. The Nova Shockwave and the Thunder Screen happen after the all or nothing, so or after leap. So fully equipped, I think, increases the damage of the Shockwave and the Thunder Screen because it gives you skill damage after leaping. And anything killed by those things will reduce your leap cooldown as well. So fully equipped is a very good pick here. And just another indication of how good the damage is at this point in the run. At this point, we're just kind of showing off where the build's got to. And boom. So looking at around 300 1,000 damage on a leap in a giant AoE. That one wasn't nearly as much. I'm not exactly sure what is constituting some of the damage differences. Here, close combat's probably not worth it. Death Mark 2 is probably better. Lightly Shield is great. We'll pick that up. And onward. And as you can see, the damage is not absolutely insane. It's just good. And the reason that this is powerful, once again, to restate it for the 100th time, is actually, let's move back and see that damage. So that's 100,000, and then the Shockwave, which is triggering afterward, is 160,000, and that's because of the 75% skill damage increase going toward that. And we have quite a lot of shield. So the Nova Shockwave is actually doing more damage than our leap right now. Was it the case there? It looks like those were pretty close to even. We've got a defensive enemy there. But here, yep, we're getting pretty close to even again. And so Nova Shockwave is doing a huge amount of damage at this point in the run. But the damage is mostly AoE. And a lot of our single target damage is still coming from our cavalry shots. It's very easy to accidentally miss and have to restart. As you know, I'm actually playing with less than 10 leap stacks right now. So some of this damage would be better otherwise. Yeah, you can see like 100,000 plus 50,000. Very important to focus these guys and to cycle through your defensive abilities while you're shooting them. I'm keeping an eye on leap and making sure to keep casting cleave even though I'm not hitting anything, just so that I can keep leaping while I'm aiming for that guy. And I'm actually moving in sort of this irregular pattern, and I've sort of just mapped it out in my head, and I'm just sort of moving in that mapped portion I built in my head without actually having to see where I'm going. And notice here, that was kind of clever. I forgot about this. I kill one of them so that I get the stack of Nova Release before leaping. And that makes sure that I trigger the Nova Release, the Nova Shockwave, before. That makes my first leap trigger the Nova Shockwave. And part of the reason I'm able to do this crazy damage with my cavalry is because of the Last Stand, which is 50% rate of fire and 100% weapon damage, which is super, super powerful. And so the Pole Monarch is chump change at this point. You know, it's very easy to dodge all of his skills with our leap. It's very easy to stay full armor. And even with 220 stacks of dual edge, we're really in no fear of dying at this point. These things are blocked by your normal damage block, so really nothing to fear. And looks like I'll eventually take this guy out. As you can see, once again, my damage isn't absolutely crazy. It's just solid. And then, wham! Nice, pretty good. So hopefully that was something that you can learn from. Hopefully that was useful. A little bit of a walkthrough on how to be successful in R8 with the armor break build. Looks like I'm showing. Yeah. Here we go. This is better showing. So we had quite a few things going for us there. We had like some Devil's Covenant plus Copper Miner. Move speed increases, as well as surprise bonus there, which was 15% chance to double any skill damage. So maybe that 160,000 shockwave we saw was because of surprise bonus there. But all in all, very good run. I was very happy with that. And I thought it was a good showing of the build, especially because we didn't get all or nothing until the late game. So don't want to say too much more. I think that pretty much covers everything I'd like to say. I hope this was useful to you and hope that you're able to take something away from it. If you feel like you want to subscribe, you know, hold that feeling inside of you, but don't do it because you feel like you have to support me. Just, you know, only sub if you want to do it for you. Right now, the YouTube algorithm will suggest videos for you. You don't need to click buttons. Okay, and I'm not planning on monetizing this channel at this point. Maybe I will, but if I do, I'm not changing what I'm doing. So with that, have an excellent day. I will see you in the next video, and good luck in your next runs.